This is more than a festival. This is the beginning of transformation in our streets. This is a time of empowering people to live what they believe, equipping them to live like Jesus, so they can engage God's love in their communities. This is church, but not as you know it. It's so much more than a gathering of people. This is power to the peaceful. More than church curtains and a keyboard. This is open air outreach, not closed door cathedrals. This is a rising up of prayerful people, soaring like eagles with God as the artist, we as the canvas, and the church as the easel. This is hope, unity, peace in action. Because when we come together, the denominational lines are laid down, cultural lines fade out, and God's will plays out. This is more than a festival, more than music, more than another event. It's a movement of hope, a campaign of compassion, a message to the masses with one vision: Jesus. So be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged. The Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.
So 6'6.5" is my official height, and some of you might be wondering as well, what an interesting accent he has, and what an interesting surname he has. This is true as well. I am Portuguese. I was born in Portugal, son of missionaries, and I'm actually going to share a little bit about that later on, but son of missionaries who are still out in Portugal, and I decided to follow what Jesus was calling me to do, to go to a warmer country. So I decided to come to England, and now I live in Stockport. I know it's crazy, right? Sometimes my friends still say, why do you live in England? Where I used to live in Portugal was about 15 minutes from the beach. Only rained for 65 days in the whole year. I used to walk to the beach every day, and now I live in Stockport near the canal. It's not the same thing, but hey, sometimes you got to do what you got to do in order to follow Jesus. So I came to the UK in 2008, came to study, went to University of Birmingham, and I've stayed ever since. And most recently I joined this charity called the Message Trust, where I've been for the last 9 years or so. I think I'm celebrating my 10th anniversary next year, which is crazy to think I've been here so long. And what I've been doing in the last 8 years or so, I've had the opportunity to be one of their missional bands, one of their mission teams, going into high schools all across the country, and in Europe as well, and in other countries as well, to be fair, telling young people about the good news of Jesus, right? You've been able to do music, and I love doing music, and you might be asking, what instrument do you play? And I don't really know, if I'm totally honest, what I actually do within the context of the band. I know I jump up and down a lot, and I run on stage a lot and pretend to do stuff, but as well, because I'm not really a drummer, I decided to develop a little technique that goes a bit like this. A lot cheaper than the drum kit, I'm not going to lie, a lot cheaper than the drum kit. So I'm a beatboxer, that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 8 years or so. But most recently, I've had the opportunity to join this incredible team for Festival Manchester. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about the background of Festival Manchester, and apologies for those that already heard this story. So, as you know, COVID struck the world last year, and like everybody else, we had to close our offices, we had to kind of shut everything down, and we're trying to figure out, okay, God, what is it that you're telling us to do? What are we going to be doing? Because, you know, I'm sure like many of you in this room, 2020 would have been the year of 2020 vision, would have been the year of great mission all across the UK and beyond. It would be a year of, we're going to be doing loads of stuff, reaching the last, we had so many plans, and then that kind of got put on pause. At the Message Trust, we had our cafe, and we had to shut our cafe down simply because we were not allowed to have people in. So we had so much surplus food that we decided to start blessing people within our immediate estate called Wythenshawe. From the back of that, we thought, what if after the 2 weeks of lockdown, how naive we were, the 2 weeks, did anyone else think it was just going to be 2 weeks of lockdown? I definitely did. You folks, 4 weeks max, that's it, back to work. I know, I was feeling exactly the same thing, mate. And I remember thinking, cool, we were talking, once the lockdown is over, we'll be able to have a bit of a party in the park, have a little celebration in the park, and because everybody's back out again. And that didn't really work out. So then Andy, our CEO, started thinking, what would it look like for us to have a bit of a festival. Actually do something, not just for Wythenshawe, but do something for the whole church in the Northwest. It's been crazy 18 months, right? 18 months of pain, 18 months of being stuck in and not really realizing what can we do in the future. But we thought, what if the church in the Northwest, not just one particular church, but the whole church in the Northwest, were the first ones post-lockdown in 2022, be the first ones out of the doors with this great message of hope, telling people that actually there is hope. And this hope is not human optimism, this hope is not wishful thinking, but this hope is something that is genuinely real. And this hope has a name. What's his name? Jesus. Come on, we can do better than this. We can do better than this. This hope is not human optimism or wishful thinking or just some kind of cool idea. But hope has a name. What's his name? Jesus. There we go. That hope has a name is Jesus. For people to actually understand and realize who Jesus is, and realize that is the actually missing piece in their heart. That actually they can have true life, life to the full, life with purpose and with true meaning, life with Jesus. So we started dreaming about that, and we thought that's a pretty cool idea. So we chatted with an organization in America called the Louis Palau Association. Some of you might have heard of the Louis Palau Association. Maybe you've heard of Louis Palau. Louis Palau went to be with Jesus earlier this year. But we chatted with them because they're world experts in terms of doing festivals and large events all over the world. So we chatted with them. We said, would you be up for being part of this? Now, in 2003, there was a festival in Manchester that happened in 2003. Did anyone attend that one? Just two, I wasn't there either. But yeah, 4 of us attended. I didn't, I don't want to put myself in the 4 of us, but 4 people in this room attended that festival. So that was with the Louis Palau Association as well. And they said, yes, we want to be part of this. Let's do this big mission in the Northwest and call it Festival Manchester. We chatted with some churches as well across the region, and there was a unanimous yes, let's do that. So we started contacting churches. Would you want to be part of this great mission? Would you want to be part of what we believe to be the greatest mission to a generation? And so far, the answers have been pretty positive, exciting. We started talking to some other organizations and some other charities. How could we partner together? How could we work together? And they're going to be coming up and share a little bit in just a second. But before that, I want you to check out this video. This video is called What is a Festival? And it will explain in about 3 minutes' time what a festival looks like. Check it out.
We believe in the power of the church to live out and proclaim the gospel. As we come together to pray, serve and share the good news of Jesus, we believe we can impact more lives than ever before. This is more than a weekend. We believe that a united church will be a catalyst for transformation right across our region. This is the heart, the vision and the hope of Festival Manchester 2022. Every great move of God begins with prayer, and this is at the heart of Festival Manchester. We want to see the church in our region rise up in prayer like never before. As we passionately pray, we're asking everyone to commit to specifically praying for 5 of their friends who don't yet know Jesus. Join us and get involved in seeing lives transformed. As we pray, we step out. Kicking off the festival will be a night of prayer, worship and vision as we come together and ask God to lead us as we go out in service and mission. Word and deed always go together. Love Where You Live will be a key part of Festival Manchester. As well as proclaiming the good news of Jesus, we'll be heading into communities, transforming streets, meeting needs. We'll work in partnership with local government, the police and other partners as we show love to our neighbours, building long-lasting relationships that draw people closer to Jesus. We don't want anyone to miss out on the opportunity to hear the gospel. So as well as our huge festival, we'll be running build-up events right across the region, including homeless and prison outreaches, events designed for women, business and civic leaders, and so much more. There will also be a comprehensive programme to reach young people in the region's high schools and primary schools. World-class bands and mission teams will work alongside local churches to impact this generation. To make sure no one misses out, we'll be putting significant resources so that everyone can hear about Festival Manchester 2022, building excitement for what we believe could be the biggest mission our region has ever seen. Every step of the way we'll be equipping and training people in how to share the good news and introduce their friends to Jesus. We'll help them understand their decision, encourage and pray with them, and connect them with local churches.
And all this climaxes on the 1st to the 3rd of July 2022, right here in Wythenshawe Park.
A weekend packed with family-friendly activities, performances from some of the best-known Christian artists, jaw-dropping stunts from world-class athletes, a family fun zone, a skate park, and so much more, all with multiple opportunities every day for people to hear and respond to the gospel. As the church steps out in prayer and action on a scale we've never seen before, we pray this will be just the beginning. We don't just want to see decisions, we want to see lifelong disciples and communities transformed as we propel forward in mission, united as one church. Festival Manchester 2022 is a partnership between the Message Trust, the Lewis Palau Association, and hundreds of churches, ministries, organisations and businesses. For more information and to find out how you can get involved, go to festivalmanchester.com.
Very exciting mission that's going to be happening next year. And at the back, there's so much information, things that we really put focus on and really put some hard work into it. And you'll be able to find a booklet that has the timeline in it. So I would encourage you to take one home and maybe you can share with your family, maybe you can share with your church. But then in it, on the stand as well, there'll be more of a comprehensive understanding of what we are trying to do with going into high schools. We're planning on going to 150 high schools all across the Northwest. Secondary schools, colleges, whatever that looks like. And maybe in this room you are a local school teacher, maybe you are governor in the school, maybe you have connections with a local high school. Please get in touch with us, chat with us, because we would want to see how we could bring the good news of Jesus to that school. We're planning on going to these primary schools with a plan of creating at least one choir with 1,000 members in it. Let me try that again because I feel like I fumbled my whole sentence over there. Let me try that. We're planning on creating a 1,000-piece choir of young children from the local primary schools. And then as part of the legacy piece, create choirs all across, community choirs all across the Northwest as well. So maybe you have a connection within one of those local primary schools. Please come and chat with us at the very end. We'd love to see how we could serve you and bring the connection, bridge the gap between the church and the school as well. We're looking at doing what we're calling Love Where You Live, which is the social action element of Festival Manchester. And we're dreaming of seeing at least 200 projects, 200 social action projects happening all across the Northwest. And this could look like barbecues, this could look like street parties, this could look like a water fight, this could look like painting fences. Whatever you want to dream, whatever you want to do, we will see that we can do it. 200 social action projects, that's what we're wanting, that's what we're believing. We're believing to partner with 500 churches all across the Northwest with different backgrounds, different denominations, different flavors, just seeing the church stepping together and stepping out in unity and stepping out in faith as well. As part of Love Where You Live, which is the social action campaign, is 3 specific campaigns, 3 pillars. We're looking at seeing the church in the Northwest sponsoring 1,000 kids through the work of compassion, and we will hear them in just a second. What would it look like for 500 families in churches all across the Northwest to adopt and foster through our good friends at Home for Good? And looking as well, working alongside with Barnabas, what would it look like to reach into the homeless community all across the Northwest? How could we serve them? How could we bridge the gaps when these people who are rough sleepers and homeless make a decision to follow Jesus? How could we then accommodate them in our churches as well? So we've got quite an extensive, exciting plan as part of Festival Manchester. We're also putting a lot of thoughts into the follow-up program, and we have our friends at Alpha who are really helping us develop a follow-up program. And this literally, I went to the printer on Friday and collected this from the printer. It's literally off the press. So at the end as well, feel free to grab one of these follow-up packs. You know what, Paul, I'm going to give this to you because you did not have it when you came to the meeting on last week. But again, an opportunity to see how could we do follow-up properly. Now, obviously, I'm not telling you this is what you need to do for your follow-up, but there's some ideas, some steps that will help you with this particular journey. But anyway, enough from me. Right now, we're going to hear one of our key partners at Festival Manchester, and this is Compassion right here. So would you put your hands together for Phil?
Good evening, everybody. Great to be here in Ramsbottom. It's about 20 years since I've been to Ramsbottom. Can you believe it? Unbelievable. I'm from a little place called Warrington, not too far away. I'm the Senior Partnerships Manager for Compassion UK, and I just love what Festival Manchester's all about. But just give me a show of your hands right now. Who's heard of Compassion UK before? Anybody? Oh, that's good, that's good. Okay, let me give you a little snippet of who we are. Just in case you don't know, over 2.1 million children are currently given a hope and a future in Jesus because of people like you who are sponsoring one-to-one and writing letters to them, investing in their lives. A child, a stranger somewhere else in the world, lifted out of poverty and given the opportunity to step into a hope and a future. And not just one where they get invested in their life now, but one where they get to meet the love of Jesus Christ. Let me tell you this, just before COVID struck, over 158,000 children responded to the message of Jesus because of people sponsoring like you. Isn't that amazing? That's incredible. It blows my mind when I think about the difference made. And we're just so privileged to be involved with Festival Manchester as we go through this process. And I want to talk to you today about, you probably come from a number of different churches today. You probably come from all sorts of different denominations and backgrounds. And I want to ask you today what it would look like for you to wonder what the difference might be that your local church could make in partnership with Compassion to see children sponsored. That figure of 1,000 lives right now that may be invested in because of people like you, people like me. And I just wonder, I was praying and thinking about, as we plan this Festival Manchester, as Daniel and his team bring this all about, this amazing platform to make an incredible difference, I'm just believing and wondering what families are out there in the world right now across 25 different countries where the poverty is at its worst. Who are just praying right now for the answer to their lives to be transformed, to be changed. And they know nothing about Festival Manchester. But I wonder what it would look like come June, July next year as people respond to this and all across this northwest region as churches choose to step into partnership. I wonder what that would look like for you and your church. So my ask to you today is simple. It is this, that if you come from a church today and you're thinking, oh gosh, I think it would be really good for my church to be involved in seeing lives transformed and changed, then we've got to stand at the back there today. And you can fill out a response card. Looks very simple like this. Just give me your name and number. Hey, I'll even treat you to a coffee, maybe a cake. We'll have a good conversation and we'll pray together, we'll eat together. If you're really technological, you can get your phone out right now and text 88802 and put coffee in the message. Simple that, isn't it? And we'll get that response through and I'll be able to give you a call and arrange that for you. But one-to-one sponsorship looks like this. If you don't already know, it costs £28 a month. And that's a holistic development approach to changing lifestyle. That's their education, that's healthcare, that's food provision, that's being engaged in the local church and being loved and cared for and known and protected. These are all the things that happen. But also, as I just finished right now, I am struck by the fact that as we've kind of gone back to some sense of normality in the UK, there's many nations around the world that do not experience that at the moment. I've heard that it's going to take Africa 5 years perhaps or more to be vaccinated from COVID. And so the challenges are tremendous, but I believe right now that we could be the answer to somebody else's prayer at this time. So if that's you and you've come from a different church today, why not come and talk to me? I'd love to tell you more about how you can be involved as a church member. And finally to say, if you don't already sponsor a child and you would like to, then you can do that today as well. This is little Dora, she's 1 year old and she's from Haiti. And we've got a few profiles like that here today. And if you just feel moved to sponsor today, come and speak to me. I'd love to tell you more about that. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Amazing stuff. So I would really want to encourage you to go and look at the stand at the back as well. So right now we're going to go to Home for Good, and we've got Mike. Would you put your hands together for Mike as he shares?
I'm Mike, and I'm from a charity called Home for Good. Who's heard of Home for Good? Wonderful, excellent. Home for Good is a small charity with a massive vision that together we can find a home for every child who needs one. Those of you who may have seen me before will know that one of my go-to verses in the Bible is Matthew 5, verse 6. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. If you'll allow me to sort of paraphrase that, blessed are those who see that things aren't the way God intended them to be. And so they hunger and they thirst for. They live their lives as an example of the way that God intended things to be. You know, you don't have to look very far in our world to see that things aren't the way that God intended things to be. In the area of, that we work, the number of children in care in the Northwest has increased by a third in the last 10 years. There are now 15,000 children in care in the Northwest. 6,000 of those are in Greater Manchester. There's nearly 300 children waiting for an adoptive family. And there are many, many more who really need a loving, caring foster family who can look after them and care for them. Many of those waiting have been waiting more than 18 months. Just a show of hands here. Who's a sibling? Who's a sibling? If you were in the care system, you would wait far longer than anybody else to find a home. If you were from a black or minority ethnic culture, you would also wait far longer than anybody else. If you were an older child, you would wait longer than anybody. If you're from a black and ethnic minority culture and you're an older child, it's unlikely that you will ever be adopted. You'll live in the care system until you age out at 18. We believe that Festival Manchester is the perfect opportunity for the church to step up and to love where you live by caring for children in your community who are vulnerable, who need that extra help, that extra care. Our goal is to find 500 homes for children through the Festival Manchester initiative, right across Greater Manchester. And we'd love for you to be part of that. It's a big target, massive target. But actually, you know, if every church in Greater Manchester had just one family that stepped forward, one more family that stepped forward, and the rest of their church wrapped around them and supported them, we could easily reach that target, and we could be part of the solution for many, many years to come. And who better to do it than the church? We who've been adopted by the King of Kings. We've been made sons and daughters. We've been brought into his family. We who our Father God continually reminds us of the special place in his heart for the vulnerable, for children, and for those in great need. We who've been shown the radical hospitality of him welcoming us into his heavenly dwelling. So why Festival Manchester? What, you know, it's not until 2022 anyway, so why am I talking to you now? And why Festival Manchester? We think it's a great opportunity, but these children need a home now. And so we can start on this, we can start to make progress on this. It's not a quick process, it's a long process, and so we'd love to talk to folks from your church who might be interested in helping us, but you can also be involved. And I see some wide open faces that say, I'm too old to foster or adopt. Well, actually, first of all, there's no upper age limit, but let's not go there, all right? But actually, we need people like you to wrap around those who do, to care for those who do, to support those who do, to help them to do what they do. So if you're interested in finding out more, there's a QR code, I think, coming up somewhere. There we go, look at that. Or you can come and see me afterwards. I've got some little cards you can fill out if you want to. You're not committing to anything other than saying, I want to know more. And like Phil, I love to drink coffee. I don't have a posh thing that you can text to say coffee, but come and see me and I'll certainly sort out coffee with you, all right? Yeah, together we can make this happen. One last thing, we're looking to appoint somebody to work specifically on Festival Manchester. There's a job advert on Charity Jobs, and the closing date is the 4th of October. So if you know somebody who might work on this in Festival Manchester, then please do pass those details on to them.
Great, and we're just going to hear from one more person, and this is Neil from Barnabas as well. So would you put your hands together for Neil?
Thank you. I don't know, I'll do a show of hands if anybody's heard of Barnabas. But has anybody heard of Barnabas? Oh, yes, wonderful. Because we're a little charity in the middle of Manchester, and we work specifically with people who are rough sleeping and find themselves rough sleeping in the city centre, or find themselves homeless in many of the projects around the city. So homelessness is not just rough sleeping. homelessness is where anybody finds themselves where they haven't got a place, a secure place to call their own home. So that does include people who find themselves in hostels, hotels, and temporary accommodation. We're passionate about lifting people out of poverty, not just giving somebody something, whether that's a bite to eat or a shower. We do that, obviously. But we're passionate about lifting people into their true identity as sons and daughters of the King of Kings. And we do that by encouraging people to be empowered to make good decisions, whether that's getting a detox, whether that's helping them with their benefits claim, whether that's doing an accommodation referral. And we work all throughout the year to help people make those choices. Just even through the pandemic, we were able to, we were part of the government's Everyone In campaign, getting people into hotels and then moving people out of hotels into accommodation. A huge success. Ironically, one of the good things that came out of COVID for us in the homeless sector was the joint working, was the beds and the provision that was available. And that happened all across Greater Manchester. We do our bit in city centre Manchester, but we also work with people all across the region. So today I just encourage you, come and see me, come and have a chat. If you're interested in, you might be thinking, well, what can I do? I'm up here in Ramsbottom or Bury. Well, people do support us as you've put your hands up earlier. You can give stuff to us, we take donations, you can pray for us in particular. Some of you may want to volunteer, may want to make that journey into the city. People do come from all over the region into Manchester because Manchester is a hub and it does attract people who want to beg or rough sleep in the city. So we do meet people from all around the region. But also as part of Festival Manchester, we're looking, as part of the Love Where You Live section of what we do, is to connect with all other homeless outreach that's happening around the different boroughs. So if you're involved in a homeless outreach up here in Bury and Ramsbottom in this area, also come and say hi, because we'd like to join up the dots. We'd like to partner with you as part of Festival Manchester and maybe put something on up here or do some outreach or do something together in that way. And finally, this is our big ask at Barnabas, similarly to the other charities that have just spoken, but we're looking for churches who want to partner with us and look after people that we rehouse in the community. One of the big things that we see is people go round, I call it the hamster wheel of homelessness. We take people off the streets, we get them help, we get them in somewhere, they seem to be doing really well, and then loneliness hits, addictions rear their head, anniversary of a bereavement happens, and we find people back out on the street, even though they've got a property, even though we've got a front door for them. And if we can put a community around that person, we believe that that will break that cycle. And our passion is that every time somebody interacts with us at Barnabas, they've got a chance to meet Jesus. You know, good news in our world might be a cup of tea, it might be a warm shower, it might be an opportunity to not be on the streets. But we also know the ultimate good news is Jesus, and that conversation, that love, can change somebody's life overnight. And to encourage you, we had a lady who has met Jesus in a hostel during this COVID period just a few months ago, and she is now, we baptised her in our centre because there were no churches open that could do it, and she's now following Jesus and reaching out into her hostel accommodation, praying for everybody in her hostel to know Jesus for herself. Way better than we can do. We haven't been out, I haven't been on the streets myself personally, but she has, and she's able to tell people that Jesus changed her life. So it happens, it's happening in our region, and we're believing for way more. And so come and have a chat afterwards. I'd love to connect with you if you want to help us.
Great stuff. I love it. I love it how it is all intertwined with the gospel, isn't it? I mean, all this stuff is great, but the key ingredient in all that we do is Jesus, 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 because it's Jesus, Jesus, Jesus that brings the transformation. Everything else works until a certain point, but real transformation comes through Jesus and Jesus alone. We're going to keep on worshiping Jesus, so if you feel comfortable again to stand up as we worship together. And then after that we will go into a time of prayer. I'll just share one piece of scripture, and then Feluki, who's part of the Festival Manchester team, will come and share how we were going to pray for this region, and even pray for our partner charities, and pray for Festival Manchester, and what is it that we could do within Ramsbottom and Bury. So if you're comfortable, if you're able to stand up, would you stand up with me as we worship? You know, sometimes even just chatting with people, and chatting with church leaders, and when we're talking about the magnitude of Festival Manchester, thinking like, oh my goodness, this is massive. This is so big. How could I even play a part in this? How could I even join this? This sounds scary. This sounds big. I'm like, it does. It does sound scary. It does sound big. But what I love about what God does, He utilizes, and sorry this sounds really cheesy, but He utilizes ordinary people, right? Ordinary people like ourselves in this room, and makes the outcome somehow extraordinary, right? He makes something so small become so big. Why? Because He's looking for people that say, yes, I am up for being part of this adventure. I'm up for being part of this journey. There's this one passage I was reminded of yesterday, and I just wanted to drop it with you guys this evening, and this is in Romans chapter 10, verse 14. And just a kind of a bit of a context, Paul is talking about, in particular, this particular chapter, Paul is talking to the Israelites, about the Israelites, and how he's wanting them to really become followers of Jesus. He's going for it. And then he says this, how then, verse 14, how then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? It is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. How beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. See, God very easily, I guess He could have, to demonstrate this amazing gospel and to proclaim it, to proclaim what Jesus had done. I guess He could send some army of angels, or He could put a big spectacle in the sky. He could do something massive and big. But He chose to send people. He chose to send you and me to be part of this great rescue plan, this rescue mission. I mentioned it earlier, it blows my mind that the creator of the universe would allow us and invite us to partner with Him in this rescue mission. The rescue mission to get His kids back home. The people that are lost, people that are far away from Jesus, to bring them back. And what does He do? He utilizes people like you. He utilizes people like me. John Stott said this, Christ sends heralds. Heralds preach. People hear. Hearers believe. Believers call. And those who call are saved. We have such an opportunity as part of Festival Manchester, but just in life in general, to be, like Paul says in 2 Corinthians, these ministers of reconciliation, these ambassadors of Christ. We have been reconciled to the Father through Christ Jesus. And then Paul says, I urge you, be reconciled. Go out there, be those ministers of reconciliation. We have such a beautiful opportunity to do that. And it might look in different ways. It's not about equal amounts, but it's about equal heart. It's about saying, you know what? The little that I have, God, the ordinary that I have, the little that I have, I'm going to step out with it. And I'm going to use it for your glory. I think it's something very important for us to realize. Right, and I know I'm singing to the choir right now, but something that's important for us to realize is that the gospel actually works. The gospel works. The gospel has not lost its power. The same gospel that we heard maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe that moment when we said, yes, I want to put my faith and my trust in Jesus, that one moment, whatever that looks like, whether it was at a church service, whether it was at a concert, whether it was in a youth group, that moment when you said, I want to put my faith and my trust in Jesus, that gospel still works today. And that gospel naturally multiplies. In 1984, and again, apologies for those who've heard this story already, but in 1984, my mum was living in London. My mum is from London. She's half German, half English. Living in London, living in the city, great life, enjoying life, good friends, good job, no worries whatsoever. And then someone invited my mum to go to an event. Now, this friend of hers was actually a Christian, and apparently had been praying for her for a long time, just praying. She didn't really care about it. But invited her to come to an event. Come to this event that's happening at QPR Stadium. So she finishes the job, work one day, and then she packs her bags and she goes to the QPR Stadium. And the QPR Stadium was actually Louis Palau who was preaching, that small Argentinian man that we're partnering with, his organization. He was preaching at that event. My mum recalls it. She was in the stands at QPR Stadium, 1984. And then she hears the gospel message. And again, she had no background, Christian background whatsoever. She hears the gospel message. And she says this, I remember the stadium somehow went really quiet. And I saw this bright light. And it was at that moment I knew I had to surrender my life to Jesus. It was at that moment that I gave my life to Jesus. So she was one of the thousands of people that went running down into the middle of the field and gave her life to Jesus. But see, the story doesn't end there, because then 5 years later, she meets my dad. And 5 years later, they become missionaries in Portugal. And then 5 years later, they're in Portugal. And they've been living in Portugal ever since, still serving God, still serving Jesus, telling people about Jesus. I came along a few years later, and she introduced me to Jesus. And now for the last 8, 9, 10 years or so, I had the opportunity to introduce thousands of young people to Jesus through the band staff, of going into schools, but not just young people, just people in general. I've had the opportunity to see young people being baptized and becoming followers of Jesus and telling other people about Jesus. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because this gospel seed, it naturally multiplies. It never just hits that one person, right? So just imagine what would it look like in the Northwest, that gospel seed to be planted, and that explosion of the gospel happening in the Northwest. But see, I believe that the way that we're going to see that happen, God will utilize people like yourselves, like me, to be part of this amazing rescue mission, this journey. And I feel like right now there's an opportunity for us to be praying. We want to go into schools. We want to go into high schools. We want to go into primary schools to bring this beautiful message. But not only that, we want to work with business and civic leaders around the Northwest, around Ramsbottom and Bury. We want to bring the good news of Jesus to every sector in Bury and Ramsbottom. And I feel like right now will be a great opportunity for us to pray. But I'm just going to read this passage one more time. How can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? It is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. We are good news people. We bring the good news to a world that is in desperate need that there is hope. To a world that is in desperate need of good news. And good news is Jesus. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pray right now. I'm going to invite Feluki to come up. If you can put your hands together for Feluki, and she's just going to lead this next section